Welcome everyone. I thought we would talk about my sketchbook, my outdoor nature journaling sketchbook. It's basically finished except for a few bare pages and stuff, and just to do a quick flip through what we're going to be talking about today, that's the quick gist of it. So if that's all you want to get out of this, you're done. But I'm sitting here and I thought, well, let's talk about this, and I'll go through my progress. And you're going to see, I think, an evolution of change in my work throughout the time period of about 2021, early 2021, and up until, well, just this past month. And so I thought, let's sit down and chat. I've got myself a cup of tea. I love Rose Tea by Taylor, and I thought I'm going to sit down with a warm cup of coffee or warm cup of tea and just chat with you guys. And if you want to go and take a break and get yourself a cup of tea or something, or maybe you already have something, let's chat and let's get into this. So some of these are just some findings from my meanderings out on the trails. I live in approximately, if you don't know me, by the way, I'm Reese. And if you don't know me, I am approximately in the middle of Florida. And so because I live in the middle of Florida, it is mostly warm here. I have a very limited window of time to get outside and paint in my sketchbook doing nature journaling. But I've been doing nature journaling off and on for probably the past 25 years or more, maybe 30 to be honest with you. But they weren't ever kept in one place. They were in random places or in random pieces of paper. And in 2021, I first started off with this particular size. It's a great size. I will put in the somewhere here or in the comments in the comment section of this video what kind of a sketchbook it is. And I love the format for painting outdoors. So this is a quick sketch I did. I did a quick sketch. Now it's not the final, so don't be deceived. I did a quick sketch out at the dog park when I took my dog to the local dog park, which has a lot of beautiful live oak trees. And of course it was not finished, not like this. And when I got back, I had taken a picture of it, and I sat down at my table and I did a lot more detail. So this is an example of my work when really I'm putting a lot more time and effort into my subject in watercolor. But that's probably about as tight as you will see. Everything else starts being very loose, mostly for a lack of time. And initially I would do quick sketches. I would run out of time or something was going on, or maybe it started to rain or whatever, we had to go home. This was also at the dog park. It's a very natural looking dog park, so I still consider it a part of a nature study series. And some of these pages were left blank. And I don't want to just go back and put like a new date here, but what I thought I'd do is actually go back to some of these locations and maybe pick up a leaf or something and do a study on some of the few blank pages that I actually have. Now I have several properties that I like to go to. Several properties that I like to go and hike that are within decent or okay driving distance. And some of my favorite ones usually have some type of a water body on it, a pond or a lake or something. And this is one of the places. And like I said, most of these sketches are usually done during the winter. So this was done very quick. And you will also see as time progressed, I improved the quality of my materials because I was using very inexpensive student grade Cotman watercolors that I could carry out with me. Now this one actually looks a little bit better because it started off as just a sketch and I went back afterwards and actually did a touch up on this one as well. But I loved seeing an architectural structure. There was a campsite on one of these properties and they had built this structure to keep some wood elevated nice and dry for the campers out there. Well, this is where one of the places where it's more wild, and I often tend to get off the beaten trail a little bit and sit for hours. And this is one of my favorite places, but still the watercolors are very muted, using those inexpensive colors. And often because, you just don't have time when you're out and about. Sometimes you don't feel like painting or you're not inspired by anything. And so I would just do something quick, something just very, very quick to sketch into a page, whether it be just a clump of grass or some lily pads, whatever. And in this situation, I got a little bit more detailed and doing leaves. Now I do like to study leaves, sometimes in a lot of detail. And I've got a watercolor video doing one of those in high detail. I also have this sketchbook that I keep. If you've not seen this before, this is my sketchbook of leaves that I pick up random leaves, and I'll just do studies in great detail, studying values, and all the different values, and learning how to turn the form with the values and how to draw from life. So this is not the leaf that I drew, but I usually would just pick up a dry leaf now. That's one thing I would say if you're interested in doing this. I pick up a dry leaf and I put it on the opposite page and I sketch it to make it look exactly like the leaf as much as I can, just using a spatial analysis of all the key points. And it's not necessarily to be perfectly accurate, but it's something to just improve my drawing skills, and it's fun for me. It is, and you can do it anywhere. I'm not going to show you the whole thing. I'm just going to show a few pages that I like, just so you see that I do this sometimes in other places. I will say at my core, I am a draftsman, and this is one of my favorite pages here. I love this leaf right here. I can't remember what kind of leaf it is, but it really had some beautiful colors on it. And I used Prismacolor pencils on this very lightly. You have to be so careful when you're working on Prismacolor, because I feel like if it gets too dark, it easily can get like more waxy looking. But this looked almost spot on for the leaf itself. Anyways, I just thought I'd share that really quickly if you're interested, or if you think that might be something you do. But that's why you see this in this sketchbook. And I'm probably going to do one over here eventually. Then just going back out different places. But this was two longleaf pines that were kind of growing together. And then they had this complex vine that had grown all over it. This is a vine called the Smilex vine. And it has little thorns on it. But I thought it looked really, I don't know, beautiful. Almost maybe angelic of the tree. This is again dog park. Not so great. Sometimes my paintings in the sketchbook just aren't that great. And that's okay. Again, back at one of my favorite places next to a pond. I love this spot, or I did. Now it no longer really is this spot right here. These trees, they've all died because the pond has had a lot of water in the past several years now. And it's just too wet to visit and sit right where I was, and these trees are gone. First time I've gotten back here in well over a year, and we got so much rain that it has completely changed the landscape around the lake, around the pond, lake. So, yeah, I guess it's really lake. Oh wow, it looks gorgeous. I mean, it looks sad in a way. I'm sure some people would say, oh, this looks sad because everything's dead, or a lot of stuff's dead. But this is the nature of the ecosystem around a pond like this. This is a pond that has a clay bottom that just basically holds water. It's fairly shallow. It's not something overly deep. I don't know how deep. Maybe as deep as, 5-6 feet at the depth, probably. I'm just guessing. I've never seen an alligator out here because they probably have visited. But, yeah. looks like this whole trail is shut down now because of all the devastation of the water. So no one's walking around here, and it's like my own little refuge. Back at the dog park. But you see, I had to learn how to get really quick about doing sketches, especially if I wanted to do more than just one. So again, I think this was one of the properties where there's a duck blind at the edge of the pond, and sometimes I like to sit in that duck blind. Now this is actually one of my very favorite places, and I revisit this place a lot. It's an area that has 2 ponds, and because of the fluctuation of the water, it is it's basically a flatwoods pond, and all around it is flatwoods, which is a bunch of longleaf pines. And the area between the ponds, because the water fluctuates, it ebbs and flows whether or not trees are living or dying, and the grasses grow, and sometimes it's green and sometimes it's very brown, especially in the winter time. But sometimes you can walk straight across between the 2 ponds, and other times you can't. And when my dog Sasha, my German Shepherd, and I used to go out, we could walk all through this area, and I used to have a hammock, and we would set up and listen to the sound of birds and the sound of wind, and it was really beautiful. But again, especially when times are changing, when the lights are changing, you have to be quick about capturing a moment. And so one of my favorite times of being out there is as sunset approaches and the sun sets over in this direction. The shadows of the pines start stretching out into long, beautiful shadows across the amber grass, and it's really stunning. Again, this is that same general area, but around the corner. And that's the thing about sketchbooks like this that you do out in nature. It's like, even though no one's probably going to recognize where this is, you yourself usually have very good memories of that moment or that place, because you spent time really observing. Even something as quick as this, which is really just the base of a tree, and because the tree had gotten older, all the bark on this longleaf pine has started collecting on the bottom, and it was making beautiful everything from warm to very cool gray tones. And I was quickly trying to capture that while I was sitting in my hammock with my pup by my side. And I often make the comment about the sun kissing the treetops, and long and purple shadows have begun to creep across the landscape. It's a sacred moment when the sun slips to the other side of the earth and night comes again. Then this is something that I'm not as fond about, and that's okay. I did a double page spread, but it got very muddy on me. It's a very overcast day, and I don't think I was in a great way. Then back out in one of my favorite places, in the hammock once again, which is pure heaven. If you've not tried to actually do something from a hammock like that, it's so blissful to just sit there, and especially when the weather's just right, and listen to nature. Everything from the leaves blowing, through the trees, and the sound of the birds, and just different things that you can hear and experience and feel. So this was an American holly that was close to where I was, and just the sun was just lighting it up, and I thought, well, let me just sketch that as I lay here. Again, same area, long shadows starting again. And sometimes I'm not very inspired, and so I'll just pick up something small like these little. It was a snippet of a one of the longleaf pines, and these are like some little baby cones on here just getting started. And these are something that they put up called a catkin. I'm not actually sure what a catkin is right off the cuff, but it has something to do with, I don't know if the seeds are in here or what. Anyways, I'm an amateur naturalist. This is another area that has like a little building out in there. But it was very quick. And again, not my favorite, but just recording the moment. And I was in the duck blind again. And there were lots of catbirds. We have birds in the winter here called catbirds. I don't know if you have catbirds where you're at. And I heard white-eyed vireos. So it's nice when you start to recognize the sound of some of the birds. This is a bench where I used to sit many years ago in the back of one of the properties. And I used to kind of call it my own bench. And but it was starting to the palmetto bush was actually starting to grow over the bench that I used to sit on. But this is one of my favorite paintings I've done in this book, and just one of my favorite subjects. And I've done this many other times in other sketchbooks, and in a painting I went out and painted this in plein air in oils. I've revisited that many times. This is just a quick study of a sunset, and I love it when the clouds get hit. They usually like a rain cloud, and as the sun gets going down, it gets hit with beautiful colors. So I was trying to capture that, but that was very quick. This was also very quick, and I made a note as I sat here. This was in the duck blind. I wasn't very inspired because where I was, I just didn't see anything that I really wanted to do. I think I did this, and I did this. I think I did this first, and then I did this. But I made a note that over here, there were a couple of chirping wrens trying to find a nest somewhere. And that little note reminds me exactly where I was. This is again the place with the golden grass in between two ponds. And I love this place because, especially during the winter, that golden color, that amber golden color, the warmth, is a really nice complement against the coolness of all the palmetto bushes that we have so many of here in Florida. Again, just more notes about these places, quick sketches of trees. This day I did not even have any kind of a pencil with me, because I usually do a quick sketch first in pencil, but I didn't have anything with me at all, not a pen, not a pencil, nothing. So I had to do everything in watercolor. And so I just sketched out the tree really quickly, and then I made a note. And I like to make notes of the temperature and just things I'm observing. Like it says, lots of bees and cardinals and peking sandhill cranes wandered. They were worried about my dog, Sasha. As I was sitting here, there was two, the tall sandhill cranes. They came strolling up, and they were eyeballing us and like looking sideways at my dog, very concerned, worried looking. But we were fine. Just more notes again, the tall grasses. This is that same place, the dog. You see, I love this place. This is one of my favorite places. And I actually put up my hammock, and I'm like, I want to capture what it feels like this moment, just sitting here in my hammock with my feet up, my dog by my side, and just feeling what it feels like to be there. It's such a wonderful place. I don't know if I could describe to you. So this was the end of the spring of 2022 in May. So I just captured a quick little button bush. I think it's a button bush that this was. I think that's what it is. And then I went to Korea that October, South Korea. And then my Sasha, she passed away just before I left for Korea. And I'm actually saving this spot right here. I haven't brought myself to do it yet, but when I do, I will share with you a little memorial image of her right there. I actually made a little memorial video of her. And so this was just actually in a cul-de-sac. And you never know what you're going to find in just random places. In my cul-de-sac at a pond, there were whistling ducks, mallards, a great blue heron, turkeys, right there, all together. All of a sudden showed up. And this one I went on a road trip to the coast. There's a place called the Bulow Plantation, which is like a historical site here in Florida. Actually, Audubon stayed at this plantation when it was active, and he has a painting that includes that plantation in the distance. I think it's the plantation. It's either the plantation or the sugar mill. But this is a 2,000-year-old oak, live oak, called the Fairchild Oak that you can go and see there. So I did that. And then on that same trip, I went along the coast and just sketched different things. I stopped and sketched the beach, but it was very busy. The road was really, really heavily traveled, and I did this very quick, just to capture the moment, what it felt like being right there on the coast. This I actually did in charcoal, and then I went back over it with, I think, some black watercolors, and just messed around with the values a little bit more. And I sprayed it so that it wouldn't like, rub off much. Then that same day that I did the outing, which I'm back to, I think I did this on a different day, and then we're back to the outing again that I was on. I had stopped at this place in Ormond Beach, and there's a place called the Tomoka River Grill, I believe. And I had lunch, and while I was waiting on my lunch to come, I did this watercolor of the river that I was sitting next to. And a couple of ladies were sitting there, and I actually got a commission. So the mom wanted me to reproduce this for her daughter, to memorialize that time in her life, because she was there for a school event. And so I did that, and that was very lovely to be a part of. Again, this is one of my favorite places. Near the place between the two ponds, this bench has been underwater for quite a while now. It comes up and it resides, but I used to sit here quite often, and used to have a lot more bushes and stuff around it because it wasn't as wet as it has been in recent years. But you'll see here now the pigments are starting to change. I went from very muted colors using the Cotman watercolors over to here now I'm using my M. Graham watercolors, and you'll see how much more vivid the hues are in that particular palette, because they are professional grade, much higher in quality. And I started taking those out regularly with me. Then this day I actually had nothing but a pencil and some Prismacolors with me. So I did a quick sketch of this kind of rambling thin longleaf pine that was barely surviving next to the water's edge, and just used my Prismacolors to sketch it in. And this is a different location. I tend to really love snags of trees. I find the bones of trees to be very interesting, something soulful about them. But I really liked how some of these palmettos turned out. The palmetto fronds, they're not always easy to do. Now this one I did within minutes, honestly. It was sundown. I was trying to get something just really quickly because I took a quick walk, but it was really late, and I was inspired by the color of the sky, although you can't really see much. And I thought, let me take a picture, and I'll do a quick sketch of this, and then when I get back, I will work on it. And to be honest with you, when I got back, I thought, there's something almost ghost-like about this image. And it certainly makes me feel like I remember that particular moment, trying to sketch it in super quick. And so I've left it pretty much as it is. So I ended up liking that. And sometimes I feel like, you need to do that. That's perfectly fine. Sketchbooks like this, nature journals, are just for yourself, to capture moments, impressions, and to get more acquainted with drawing nature. I think it's also very relaxing. It's very good for the soul. You know, you spend time out in nature. There's something about the chemicals in all the plants that surround you when you're out in nature that they've proven is actually quite healthy for you, very restorative. But these are two different locations. This is more of a drier area, and then we're back over closer to the lakes, working very quickly. Now this was another live oak tree. This is an unusual page where I painted it in this format. And there was some sand underneath it because it's a drier area. It's kind of a weird, complex area because parts of it's dry, but there's a pond nearby, and it goes straight into a wetland. But so there's some sand, and this tree was covered in pink lichen, but the sand was reflecting up onto the tree, and the pink lichen was basically growing, glowing. It was just really a stunning sight when I first saw it. And I'm like, you're probably never gonna ever think that you would have seen a pink tree, but I certainly did that day. I made a video too about that one. So if you go back or if you've seen some of my other nature journaling videos, you would find that nearby that area there is a stream, and I did these while I was just looking at the reflections in the stream. So it became almost abstract in the studies, which was a bit of fun. And like if you can't find a pond or a stream, you could literally just put a bucket or something out near some trees and capture anything you might be seeing as a reflection if you're interested in doing something a little bit more abstract. Now back to my bench. You can see here we are back to that bench that ebbs and flows in the past recent years with the water and the water lilies. And this is when I was sitting in this spot. I literally turned from this spot. There was this spot of decaying lily pads sitting in front of me, and there was all kinds of pine needles, and it was muddy and a mixture of water, but I thought it was really gorgeous, even in the simplicity of this right here. And I went back and I took photographs of this and have done studies of this area since then. But I like that page. I thought it was, I think it's beautiful. Now these are actually quick sketches that I've done. I've done a couple of videos. I think one is only on YouTube, and you can also see that same video on Patreon without having to watch ads or anything. And this one I did beforehand, but this was a time sketch. I think it was like 15 minutes. And I shared the video so that you could see the site and paint along, and then I showed my results. This is another one of those. This is close to the area between the two ponds. And this is a really large American holly that's in this area that's managed to survive the water coming so close to it. Okay, that's all I decided to do. That's the finished section of this particular spread. Feeling pretty good about it. I get the general feeling of the space. Even the palmetto tree over there, kind of sketched in. Feeling pretty good. But it's a really pretty area. You can see in the distance all the longleaf pines that are nearby. And I've done this a lot, and I've done this even recently, and you'll see. And now here I am back in a different spot at this same area, the same property. Now some people started asking me, why don't you ever go anywhere else? And it's really just a matter of driving and time. And when you work full time, you don't have a lot of time. And then I'm trying to also time it with the weather here in Florida. So there's all those elements that make it a bit tricky to go places that are more off the beaten path, or maybe where you don't know what exactly you're going to find. A lot of these just quick sketches, and I don't mind if things start bleeding, because to me it's almost like a poem. these quick watercolor sketches in a sketchbook, plein air, that they remind me of a whisper of a moment, a visual, where you have a poem, and it speaks to you of just things, feelings, moments, seconds, whatever. And I feel like these kind of watercolors do the same thing. So they're like a visual poem. Here the sun is starting to go down. I quickly sketched these lily pads and the water that were being lit up by the pink sky. Same thing over here. This was done on the same day, so I probably did this one first very quickly, and then I saw this and I jumped over here really quick. So that's why both of these ended up being very quick sketches. And in the distance, with the two Chuckwell's widows were calling as the sun was going down. Now for me, when I was a child, we would hear a lot more Bob Whites and Chuckwell's widows and that sort of thing, but it's become more and more rare, and I have not heard these types of birds even since this moment. But that day I did. I heard two calling, and a Chuckwell's widows, they're in the same family as a whippoorwill, if you know what that is. Here we were starting to get warm. Now we're into it's past spring. We're actually in June. I think I had a slight cool evening and I just had to get out, and I stood and did this quick sketch of the top of an old longleaf pine before I had to go. Now here we are. Actually I did this before this, so this was left as a blank page. I had gone to the Cape, out to the area near the Cape, and there were dolphins out there. And I had this also in a video. It was such a beautiful moment because, how often do you see dolphins? And they were just playing and just swimming all up and down this area, and they would swim really close to where I was, and it was really pretty. Now here we are back out, and again, my favorite areas. Actually, no, this is a different area, and then this is the property that has the two ponds. This is actually one of the ponds. This is the east pond. So I'm on the side of the east pond here, just drawing. Things are starting to become darker that particular moment. Let's see, is that right? No, it's 2:01 p.m. And I like to somehow even track the humidity, the visibility, dew points, sometimes details like that, things I've learned to capture when I was doing more drone work. And that turned out beautiful. I think I spent a lot more time there that day. And then, let's see. Yes, and then this one was actually back in December last year. So this is this year, and this was December last year. This was the first drawing that I got to, or sketch watercolor that I got to do in this journal for this basically fall winter season. And so this day, and this day, let's see, these two are on the 3rd of January, and then I went out again on the following day. So I did that at that east side pond, and then nearby was some mushrooms, so I did some mushroom sketches. And this is a hidden pond back here, so I captured that really quickly. Then near that pond right there that's hidden, I turned, and the sun was again starting to go down. It's one of my favorite times to go out, actually, because the golden hour, and the light was hitting the sides of these trees that were tucked under all their leaves. This is an adjacent property on one of these sites, and there's horses out here, so the field's bare, and sometimes I see horses out here. So I captured that, and I did a plein air in oil recently of this clump of trees. This is another, as the sun's starting to go down, catching bits of ochre colors, kissing the tops of trees, hitting the trees in spots. This is actually the Orlando Wetlands area. There was a lot of people out that day, but I got to see some roseate spoonbills, if you've never seen those. up close in person that day. It was beautiful out there. A lot of tourists go there, a lot of birders. But I did sit down on a bench on one of their walkways, and there was a roseate spoonbill sitting out there, and so I just threw him in. But they were there all up and down here, just tons of them. It was really a beautiful day. Then this just goes to show you that even you can do something really, really simple. And this was just a clump of basically what you would call weeds. But I loved the colors of the yellow that was popping on some of these vines that were growing in here. And again, these are both very similar areas. But I love how you have all these warms and cools combined. This is really loose and abstract, and I keep thinking I need to go back and find this picture. I was inspired by a mixture of the pine needles and the water that was abstractly laying on the ground. And I started sketching it, and I'm like, nope, I don't have time for this. This is going to take way too long. It looked very interesting at the moment that I first glanced at it. But I just realized it was going to take me way too much time. So I moved on, thinking I might go back to it. But then I thought, sometimes I like abstract images in my sketchbook. What do you think? This probably looks like nothing to you, but I know exactly what it is. Should I keep this, or should I go back and find my picture and finish that? Let me know in the comments. Okay, so we're coming towards the end now. This is a bit long because it's quite a thick book. So this is a long chatty session, obviously. Again, just pond, and then I really do love, snags and things, but sometimes they do take a long time. So I had done this initial sketch of this, it's a holly, an American holly that had partially was laying in the water. I sketched everything out, and I threw down a few colors, and then I went back and I did touch this one up because I felt it was worthy of touching up. Then this is, again, you probably recognize this same location because I've done it so many times. When I sit down, even though I have done it so many times, places change and you feel different days, and you react to things different days, even if you have similar materials. Sometimes I do use some mixed materials. Sometimes I will throw in a little bit of gouache or some Prismacolors or luminance pencils, or maybe even Neocolor 2s. You can't always tell when I'm doing that though, because I don't do it in great detail. But I loved how these clouds kind of worked out there. I thought they looked a lot more realistic than they had at other times, and that works out sometimes. Then these were quicker, and you could see I was really slopping it down. And then this was in a dry area. So these properties are often managed properties by local government, and sometimes they burn the properties in certain areas to preserve the landscape for special species that they're trying to protect. And so this area had gotten burned in a high dry area, and this poor tree had taken the hit and died. But I memorialized him in my sketchbook, and I think he turned out quite lovely. I'm actually quite happy with that. Again, sometimes these quick sketches I really love. I end up, I thought, I'm going to throw this down, and I wasn't really too sure how I felt about it. I'm like, oh gosh, this is turning out horrible. I'm going to have to maybe get my stuff out when I get home and finish it. But I'm like, nope. I love to look at that cloud. That cloud, the purple cloud, it looks like it's being hit from underneath. I think it's just fine as it is. And sometimes, I just do collections of trees because sometimes I don't really even know what to do. And nothing's really inspiring me. I'm like, I'm just going to do this clump of trees because it's there. Again, the area, no, this was another place. These two areas are related. This is the same pond as this one. And these are some dry grasses, and they had some really interesting seed heads out here this day. And so I was trying to get that in. I like that way that turned out. And then this is a wood duck box. When I was volunteering for one of these organizations, I've actually got a chance to hold a wood duck. That was fun. They're a really cute duck that we have here. I don't know how far they range, but they're lovely. And these are the most recent things I've done, so we're right at the end. So if you're dying to go, if you've hung out with me this far, we're almost done. I just did this month, another snag, and then very close to this area, this is one of the old pine trees that had died, but right there next to the water, this pine tree had just started a whole new life. And when I saw it, I mean, I can't even do it justice because it's so gorgeous. And I actually end up using a little bit of my micron pens to just get in a couple little details that I felt like I was missing on the go. And yeah, I really loved that spot, that image. That would be worthy of an oil painting. And then again, let's see, right there in between those two ponds, this is as close as I could get. There's days where I can't even get close to this area because it's so wet, but it had begun to dry out again. But still, that area between these two ponds, the east pond's over here, the west pond's over here, and it's still all muddy and watery out here, and you couldn't even walk out here anymore. But it's so golden and beautiful, and I'll tell you, I know this camera cannot even just do it justice on how beautiful. I can't do it justice. I can't do it justice. And I wrote, where God rests, because that's what it feels like. It feels like there's certain places I've been, and I'm like, this is a place where God would be. You'd find God, it's just so peaceful and so gorgeous. Then this is my last real page, and I did that not this past weekend, but the weekend before. I thought the silhouette of that tree and all of its leaves were just kind of golden. There was a dapple of gold as the sun was hitting them, and cold in places where they're a little further underneath. And then the palmettos in the foreground. And I thought that turned out, but I think now you can see how much more bolder and how much more braver I've gotten over time. When I was starting out using just the simpler materials, a little bit more controlled or just not really as comfortable as I am here in the very back of the book. I think it's beginning to really show all the time that I put into sketching in this book and how I've evolved. So that's very encouraging. So if you have not got yourself a nature sketchbook, even if you just have something that you carry around very small and sketch with you on the go, like I do with this little leaves book of mine, I highly recommend it. It's good for the soul, I think. All right, guys. Well, that's it for today. This is a long video, I know. So I hope you enjoyed a long, chatty video. And I'm going to catch you up later on if there's any extra work. And even things like I'm going to do a portrait of my pup, Sasha. I will share eventually on this channel. So if you hang out with me, you'll see that eventually. But that's all I have to share for today. I hope you enjoyed today's chatty session. But if you got this far in this video, please don't forget to hit the like button. Leave me a comment. Even if you just leave the word something like leaves, so I know that you got this far. And don't forget to ring the bell, subscribe, do all that stuff to help the algorithm and this channel grow. And I hope that you are all staying creative and you're all staying safe and well. All right, guys, I'll see you very soon. Thanks for hanging out with me. Have a great day. Bye.